is a barbershop quartet that now the band has picked up. So when we do it in live shows, we do it after our cover of Tool's Sober. Just as like, look at what we can do. You know, we're like, we refuse to be your, you know, genre.
This is a brief history of B&H, everyone's favorite photo and video store. The year was 1973. The Mets went to the World Series. The first cell phone call was made. And Bleamy and Herman opened a specialty photography shop at 17 Warren Street, New York City. They had a simple philosophy.
Be honest, treat people right, and they will come back.
Thanks, Irving. Also, free candy. And it worked. Over the next 20 years, we expanded and moved to West 17th Street, then 34th Street and 9th Avenue, and added more products. Lighting, binoculars, telescopes, audio, video, tripods, computers, printers, mobile, televisions, projectors, drones, and even more free candy. Now it's 3 stories and over 400,000 products and over 1,000 employees. We take millions of orders online and ship to 179 countries and counting. You can talk to us in person, on the phone,
B&H, how can I help you?
or online. Check out our checkout baskets. Also check out our checkout numbers. Also check out the flare on Marae's vest. And everyone's favorite part, our conveyor belt.
The benefit of the conveyor belt is you don't have to worry about the product or schlep it around anymore until checkout.
Nice. These are the owners. They still come to work every day. They're around here somewhere. Anyway, this is Jeanette. Oh, sorry, she's busy. This is our warehouse. This is Yakov and Levy fighting over lighting kits. B&H is not a chain. B&H is open every day, except Saturdays, of course. Now you know almost the whole story. We are B&H.
Welcome, everybody. This is the last of the NERFA panels for the summer. We are taking a 6-week break after presenting a panel every other week for 7.5-ish months. We figure it's time for you guys to get outdoors. It's time for us to get outdoors. You know, we should be 10 by this point in the year, but not quite. I am Ethan Baird. I am the executive director of NERFA. And I am here to welcome you guys and to talk about a little bit of what's going on within the organization. If you're not familiar with us, NERFA is the Northeast Regional Folk Alliance. We represent essentially Toronto through the Maritimes down to the most northern areas in Virginia. And it is a wonderful, wonderful region representing tens of thousands of musicians, venue owners, and music professionals. So we do everything we can to provide services, professional development opportunities, and basically the ability to grow your career. So if you're interested in learning more about us, please check us out at nerfa.org or write me directly, ethan@nerfa.org. We'll see what happens now. I'm really excited about tonight. We've got kind of one of the most sort of power panels that we've done in 6 months. We've had a lot of really wonderful and thoughtful people, but tonight we are presenting the gamut. We are showing you folks that have sort of seen the value of doing music videos from at home, figuring out how all of this works on their own, straight through to people that do this for a living and can sort of talk to you about the power and the benefit of learning to tell stories in your art in different ways. So I'm excited for that. I do want to point out that we made an announcement yesterday, July 15th. Tickets will go on sale for the virtual conference, and we very much want you to check that out. It's going to be pretty amazing. We're going to have formal showcases, Wisdom of the Elders, a BIPOC showcase, a maritime artist showcase. We are basically trying to create space for everyone in our community to really tell their story. So we hope you'll check that out and come listen to us. That being said, I'm going to get off the screen and give it to people who, you know, are smart about stuff, of which I don't really consider myself one of. But one of the people I do consider to be smart about stuff is our very own Christian Demek from B&H Photo, who has partnered with us over the last 6 months and helped present wonderful things like the Spotlight program, and will be moderating tonight's panel. So here we go. Christian.
Hey, thank you, Ethan. Wow. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, folks, friends, and lovers of music of all kinds. This is the NERFA 365, like Ethan said, our final panel discussion. And this will be, the topic is the value of music videos. And tonight we're going to have a discussion with our panelists to explore the topic of music videos, as the title may imply. How do they approach the concept of putting visuals to music, their influences, and what does a music video do for the artist? We want to pique your curiosity. We want to fan the flames of creativity and maybe help you begin thinking about what a music video would look like for your songs. Or maybe you've already had a music video and you want to do direction. And this is kind of the idea here. This is going to be a free form discussion. And we may get off topic, but that's okay. That's what you do when you're with friends and like-minded people, and like-minded creative people, I must say. So without further ado, let me start introducing our panel. First up, you may know her from her band Iliami, to her solo projects, and she is a multifaceted musician, vocalist, poet, who the Montgomery Caller once said she is like Janis Joplin and Joni Mitchell blended together. So please welcome the Joni Joplin of the NERFA scene, Heather Aubrey Lloyd. And I'm sure there's a huge fanfare going on behind. You can't hear it, but you know, it's definitely happening. How are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Excellent, excellent. So good to see you. So good to have you with us. Next up, he is a creative director, a visual artist, and musician based in New York. He performs with his band Marigold and develops and produces album artwork, music videos, and artist photography, among many other things. Please welcome Benjamin Lieber. Benjamin, hey man, nice to see you.
What's going on?
You know it. I'm excited. Oh boy.
Oh yeah.
All right. She is a multi-instrumentalist, songwriter, composer, and vocalist with her band Bent Knee. Plus, she has 7 solo albums under her belt and a list of contributions and collaborations that would take literally all evening to go through. Please welcome Courtney Swain to the panel. Hey,
Hello.
Courtney.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. And last and definitely not least on our panel, he is a New York-based director of photography, became a filmmaker by way of photography and playing drums in bands growing up. He has shot everything from feature-length films, international short films, to major label music videos and more. His work has been featured in Rolling Stone, Billboard, Revolver, Brooklyn Vegan, and many, many more. Please give a warm NERFA welcome to Mateus Bastos. Hey, man.
Hi, everyone.
After reading your bios, I realized I have not created nearly enough. And I feel like I've wasted this entire pandemic by not making more art. And so I am actually already inspired, and we haven't even got to the questions. My name, again, is Christian Domek, and I am your moderator tonight. It should have been our friend Kelsey. And big shout out to Kelsey, but Kelsey chose to have a baby and love and nurture the baby instead of being here with us. And I think we all agree that's probably a good thing. And we wish her the very best. And I hope she's watching and shouting from the eaves of the interwebs there. So Kelsey, we miss you at work. Come back, man. Come back. So I guess we could just jump right into it. We'll go over some of your work throughout the conversation, and please feel free to stop me if I've missed a point or you have other points to make. And because this is a general conversation and a online kind of conversation, we may talk over each other for a little bit, but we all have Zoom etiquette and we know how to work around that. And for people watching, if you have questions, we want to hear from you. This is, unfortunately, we're not in front of a live studio audience like we'd like to be, but maybe next time, right? And so send up your questions to the chat, and Ethan will send them our way. So let's start off with something pretty easy, and yet maybe a little difficult. Why a music video? I mean, what is a music video, right? I mean, that's it's obvious, right? It's a video about your music. But what do they mean? Who are they for? And who wants to approach that opening sizzler?
Why a music video?
I'll
take it.
There you go. Go for it.
I'll start, I guess. We were talking about this when we wanted to debrief last week. This question stuck with me. And I feel like is a thought that I kind of always circle back to, no matter how complicated an idea might get. And that is that, regardless of what your music is or how complex or simple or, grandiose your music may be, you can't change the fact that there are visual components of that music that a lot of people experience before they hear the audio of it, right? Visual elements of a song or an album are often the first impression that people get. And that has always stuck with me through growing up being a musician and then exploring into visual realms. It's so paramount to get that first impression correct. And if you have an idea for what your music sounds like, I would like to think that you, even if you don't fully consciously know it, have an idea for what it feels like visually. So it's just, to me, it makes so much sense to continue the execution until you get to the end, basically.
Nice. Anyone else want to add to that? Oh, we got shy people here. There you go.
I'll jump in for a bit. Music videos, I think, sort of Ben touched on this, in its most simple form outside of the business itself. It's just an extra form of expression, right? It's an extra form of sort of realizing what this piece is and what else it could be. It could be so much more than just itself, right? And I think music videos can be, like I said, a form of expression for whether it's the artist or the director or whatever, or varying social statements, or even could be like sort of markers of history itself. Like a music video, often for me, I think about having this like lasting power. So often I would be on YouTube just kind of scrolling by and being like, oh, remember this video I saw like 12 years ago, and pull it up, and I don't even listen to that band or that album or that artist anymore, but that video like left something on me that I think about, forever, since like the days of MTV to now just like whatever's popping up on different social media platforms. So I think music videos have that, but they also, like Ben touched on, is like the first like the impression. It's the first thing we see, and often I find myself, I'm really bad at discovering new music, but if it's a great music video, I'm almost immediately a fan. And I've become like huge fans of different artists because of their videos at first. And to think if they either didn't have a video or didn't have a video that went in the direction it did, I might not be a lifelong fan anymore. I think that's a really powerful thing about videos.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Can you remember the first or a very lasting impression that some of the earlier videos had made on you, and maybe have changed or augmented the way you approach either making the video or your own music? I know looking back, you mentioned MTV, right? I mean, that really was the catalyst for many people to see what a band looked like, and what, without going to the concert, and that was a very exciting time. Not every video was amazing. A lot of it was that 80s kind of look, which now has its own charm, right? But there's some amazing works of art coming out. And of course, as technology, as creativity, as people have grown and seen more, I think we have so many amazing stories out there that are coming at us. It's almost impossible. It is impossible to really absorb them all, but sometimes something just stands out. So what's a good early video you saw that really made a lasting impression? Heather?
I was a little pop kid, growing up, definitely MTV generation. So like the first video I ever remember seeing that really stuck with me, and I will pull it up and I'm like, oh my God, yeah. Was Freedom 90, George Michael. He hired all the models. He's not actually in the video. They're all just lip syncing for him. And I think so because sick. I was, little and like wanted to be more of a rebel than I was, it's so iconic because it's the video where he burns or blows up quite literally the symbols of all he was before with like Wham or Faith. He burns the leather jacket, he blows up the jukebox and the guitar. It's all awesome.
There we go.
So yeah, the whole idea is that here's this video about I'm changing my artistic direction, and sometimes the clothes do not make the man, and he's not even in it. That's the idea. Sometimes this visual representation is both a symbol and this extremely high art statement. And that, as a little rebel artist creature, I thought that was so cool. But yeah, and when he burns the jacket, I was like, that's so great. So that one stuck with me.
That's a really good example. How about you, Courtney?
I was thinking about this, and I think one of the first music videos that I remember watching over and over again is "The Scientist" by Coldplay. I just thought that was such a cool video, where it's so simple, where nothing really happens except the whole thing is going backwards. I feel like the music videos that we were watching growing up heavily featured just like singing heads, that was just like such a big thing, and I feel like maybe they're listening to it, and music videos is just one way to sort of bring the audience in to really focus on the entirety of the whole song, and create lifelong fans, much like Matt was saying, like just music that if it came up in a playlist, you'd have been like, it's cool, whatever. And you watch a music video and you really sort of think about it and you get drawn in and want more. So yeah, I think that's a early music video that really stuck with me.
Yeah, that's a good example as well. And you actually touched on my next question I was going to ask you guys. Art or audience? When you're thinking about the video you might want representing your music, which is also art, right? Are you thinking for yourself? Is it for, who is it for? Who's the music video for? Ultimately, I think most of us would say for ourselves. It should be, at least, right? But there's also a commercial aspect too, whether it's a true financial commercial aspect, but we are presenting something that I would think that we would want people to enjoy. We want like-minded people to like our stuff, right? But Benjamin, your comment before, you said first thing someone experiences is visual, and I really I like that, and coming from you, because you have a very unique and beautiful graphic design kind of style to all your work. It's very much a Benjamin Lieber look, and I think that's great. In fact, I'm hoping that Ethan can bring up a video of yours from your band Marigold, and as an example. But yeah, as we're answering, art or audience, what comes to your mind first?
Well, thank you. I thought about this question specifically when you sent the brief, and I think that something that has stuck with me, and I guess kind of resonates to what you just said about how like you get a feel from whatever I do. Obviously, first layer, you're making a music video for somebody. The video is for the artist, right? That's like paramount. That's what goes without saying, and should be the most important thing. But for me at least, and call it selfish or whatever you want, but like I look at myself as part of the creation just as much as the artist is, right? They're kind of an artist comes to you for a reason to make a music video, and that is either because they don't have the wherewithal on their own, or they like your perspective and want your perspective on what they have going on. So either of those options, they basically want your brain. And I think that is, there's me. I think that gives you the green light as the video creator to make something that is fulfilling for yourself. It can also be fulfilling for the artist. That is the goal, that it achieves both those things. But I want to be able to like look back at a video that I made 2 years ago and be like, yeah, that's still me. That's like still my thing. I did my thing there. And like, now you can see me doing my thing in a different way years later. That is very important to me. It's valuable in a like longevity, and that, touches on what Matt was talking about earlier. Like, you watch a video 10 years later and it's like has that feeling or reminds you of something. I want my things that I make to like resonate like you just said they did, So that's cool that it does.
And we can sort of actually address one of the questions too, because somebody said like, what if you're not interested in visual arts, should everyone really make videos? I think absolutely everyone should. And the level at which you make them, whether they are live performance videos or fully staged productions, are completely up to you and how you want to put yourself out there. In terms of whether or not you are interested in the visual arts, I actually would say most people are and don't realize it. You know what you like. You know what I mean? You were a consumer of visual art before you were anything else. Before you were even your own artist, you were watching art and went, oh, I do like that. I don't like that. That appeals to me. That doesn't. And in that way, you've already built your personal aesthetic for what kind of art visually you would want to make, whether it's you doing it yourself or seeking someone who does what's in your head.
Yeah, I love that.
Very nice. Yeah, that is a good question, though. A lot of musicians are definitely focused on the music itself and may not have that visual thought process. And I think it's something that we have all seen over many years now, but certainly every day seems like it's more and more important, is the multimedia aspect of our world. Everything from the phones in our pockets to everything we're consuming. Everything's not just, it's no longer just one or the other. Still photographers are being asked to do videography now, and musicians are asked to make all their visual stuff, and I think it's kind of beautiful in a certain way, and then it can be intimidating in another. But I think there's I think it helps enrich a person's primary artistry by dabbling in other forms of art. I think it's not a bad thing. You know, I'm not a painter. Okay, what happens when I throw some colors on a canvas or a piece of paper or whatever and goof around and just express something? No, maybe I do like that. You know, maybe I awaken something that was dormant inside me to bring it out. I'm not saying one has to make a career out of it. If you're really just focused on your music, well, then you hire someone like Matthias to help bring your music to a new vision. And for people who are maybe considering something like that, you know, I don't have a visual bone in my body. Okay, well, now I want to collaborate with someone who does. And, you know, where do we draw the line, you know, between collaboration or doing it alone, going it alone, right? I mean, besides the obvious budget tends to be the number one director of where people are going to go when it comes to hiring the crew or doing it themselves. But where does one draw the line? Or I don't know. You tell me.
I have a thought, which is on a very practical level. Our band started getting a lot more gigs once we started having live videos, which is a little bit different from music videos. But having a quality live video, which is maybe first step before you get into narrative music videos, or it's not like do one first or the other, but it just seems like having when people are trying to book you, audio recording is compelling, but a video is extra compelling. If it's a live music video, people seem to be more convinced that you can actually play this stuff live and it's an awesome show. And if it's a narrative music video, there has grown some sort of expectation that, you know, bands have music videos. So it's just kind of like this like legitimacy kind of thumbs up. And, you know, when people see a very good music video, they see commitment and they see organization and they see that like in a way, oh, you know, this is like, these people really want to create art. And to your second point, Christian, you're talking about, you know, dabbling with visuals. And there's a book called The Artist's Way, which is a really cool book by Julia Cameron. And one of the things I learned from working through her sort of program is that when you mine your creativity in one area exclusively, for me it was music, it can become a monoculture and you can kind of dry yourself out. And working in other formats, like for me, that's photography or watercolor or digital art, is inspiring, and it replenishes my drive and inspiration to do music. And it's also really exciting to, you talked about collaborate with, you know, I've had the opportunity to work with Matt, who's absolutely incredible, and Kelsey, hi Kelsey, who we mentioned earlier. And with that, what really struck me and what really like gave me life was to work with people who are as creative and as resourceful and as excited about visuals and making narrative music videos as I am about working in the studio. And so, you know, like as artists, we're always trying to kind of, you know, constantly break our mold and create our mold at the same time. And I think working on music videos is just such a fantastic way to sort of infuse your creativity with just so many inspirations that you would not get from just writing another record by yourself.
Do you find you get to expand your peer groups when you are being collaboratively creative, and maybe you found a partnership with a band that you hadn't worked with before, or maybe you're bringing a visual artist that you hadn't got a chance to work from, and now your horizons or your group of friends have grown even more. And
absolutely, yeah.
It's it's everything. Like, you know, how many times do we all hear it, right? Relationships are everything. Like, it's the reason all of us are here right now. It's, you know, there's so much value in like just doing literally everything that you could do, because you get to meet more people, and that just expedites, you know, your possibilities. So anyone that like, because of Kelsey, that's right.
Because of Kelsey.
Round of applause for Kelsey here. Yeah, it's just, you know, it's the whole reason we're all doing this in the first place. So you should absolutely take advantage of that if you can.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, maybe not a lot of people, for myself, maybe others, the more and more I get deeper into this thing, obviously the craft and the artistry of the whole thing evolves and finds its voice, but I find that my sort of fulfillment from everything we do comes so much more from the journey rather than the destination. Like, at the end of the day, we can make a really fantastic video, and then what I'll remember from it is like that incredible thing that happened when we're all together, like not really the video itself, because oftentimes as creators we just sort of have to keep creating and keep making, so then sometimes I even forget like something I did last year that was great, but I remember what happened while making it more, and that sticks with me so much longer. I'd love to chime in on the sort of this idea of like artists and should they make videos and why would they, or I feel like over the last 5 to 10 years especially, there's been this kind of like back and forth between whether it's artists and other artists, maybe the band, and music video directors or record labels and commissioners, and all these sort of about like the worth of something, the worth of a video. And it seems like lately like budgets go down while expectations kind of go up. And like, you know, no longer are the days of like $1 million music videos, or at least not often. And it's funny because people are often trying to discover like what is like the worth of videos. And something that after doing some research I thought was really interesting, out of the top 100 most viewed videos of all time on YouTube, now the number might be a little different. I know in 2019 it was 95 out of the top 100 videos were music videos. Now that's a mix of like, you know, like Sting and the Police could be in there, but also like Ed Sheeran's dropping something, or other artists coming up dropping something, right? And so I think that itself is an incredible testament to like, yes, like music videos are worth it, especially just to understand that like if they have this much sort of place and stay in sort of the whole like system of art and media and consumption, when an overwhelming amount of the top 100 most viewed things are music videos, I think that's a pretty good case for like, yeah, make some music videos.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point. I love it. And you bring up another
mic
point.
Drop.
Yeah. Walk away. Not everyone has the opportunity to knock over an armored truck to pay for the music video. And fun as that might be, sometimes we have to dig deep and get creative. And I know you guys have all had moments of a DIY kind of aesthetic. That's meaning like, I don't have a budget to bring in a Matthias, right? I don't have a budget to bring in, you know, expensive lights and the RE camera and blah, 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 you know. Sometimes we're going to have to dig deep and get creative. And I think a really good example, by the way, is Heather's fairly recent video, My Kind of Quarantiner. And hopefully Ethan will bring it up real quick. And I think this is an excellent, by the way, she's also one of the winners of the video spotlight. Yay! And I think this is an excellent example of, and I even said so on the review, of what a person can do, a creative person can do with a good vision and a little elbow grease and know-how. So hopefully Ethan can bring that up in just a minute.
And I'll, you know, reveal like secrets.
Yes, reveal secrets.
You know,
we want to know.
You know, you want to talk low budget? This is no budget. I bought probably $30 worth of wardrobe from Goodwill. My lights are hand-me-down. The phone is a cell phone camera. And so yeah, I mean, this is the ultimate in people scare me and I have no money. You know? So I will say really quickly, if you are intimidated making stuff, do not let that stop you from starting. So that would be the first thing I would want to say. I don't know if I'm supposed to be talking over myself. I've seen this a lot, so
No, go for it.
You can totally go and watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, we recommend.
Oh, thank you. But there's a great example. So I hadn't done a lot with my YouTube channel. So all of a sudden I put this up and, I went from, there's like 25 subscribers to over 150 in a day, because I was making stuff. But like, to use this to sort of give you a sense of it, if you can't afford to hire someone, absolutely hire somebody. What I will tell you this, I did 2 hours of filming, mostly because I suck at lip syncing. 2 hours of filming and 20 hours of editing. So if you have the time, because I had to learn from the ground up, so I literally started it having never spent any considerable time in a video editor. So that 20 hours includes me teaching myself the program. If you have the time, you can absolutely do it. Your time is valuable, and there's a price tag on it, just like there's a price tag on a professional's time. So think about it that way. You're either putting in the time yourself or you're paying someone for theirs. There are free editors. Nothing fancy is in that one. All of the like filters and the changes were all part of the package. So it can be done. I really want you to know that it can be. But I am not like a creative person who just pulled my idea out of the air. I'm referencing something that's referencing something else. Just like, In Excess references like Subterranean, the Dylan tune where he's throwing the cards. There's an In Excess video where they're just throwing the cards. It's the exact same thing. My embarrassing super secret is this is actually a no-budget take on a Christina Aguilera video, which I think Ethan might have.
Hell yeah.
And she was channeling the Andrews sisters.
And then you'll see. Right. So it's a reference of a reference, channeling the Andrews sisters. So I used not an Andrews sisters video, but something more colorful and more modern to sort of reference. And why did I do that? Because the song is a reference to the Andrews sisters. And, so the art did guide it. The song made the concept. The whole idea was, cool. I hope one day people will look at quarantine like it's this very charming, antiquated thing, in that same way that we look at sort of like, the Andrews sisters and the USO and that kind of thing. It's a timepiece, and wouldn't it be great to look back on this like that? And so that was the origin of that concept. So yeah, but I didn't get it out of nowhere. I didn't reference nothing. You don't have to be so creative that no one has ever thought of the idea before, but sometimes presenting it where you didn't have money to do a big budget actually makes you so creative that no one would necessarily pull your reference because you didn't have, a whole crew and a dance number and everything else, and so you just took, you cherry-picked the couple things that you could do. So yeah, and I don't want to talk forever, but I'm your DIY person, so I'm happy to answer your DIY questions. What did I have? I had a blue wall. Good. If I put the chair with tape on it so that every single time I will sit back down in the exact same spot, I don't have to move the camera, I hit record, and I know that my frame will be the same every time. That's what made that entire thing possible. And then the last thing I'm just going to say about it is, don't be scared. It looks really complicated, and people ask me like crazy, how did you do this? How'd you do this? If you've ever done any woodworking or any Photoshop, remember that it's only the layer on top that people see.
Love that.
The cut behind the molding is ugly, but you see the finished molding. Your poster, all of the little things you hid and the lines you like fixed, nobody sees that stuff. They just see the last layer. So that's how I got where I got. And again, I'm happy to answer questions about that. But by all means, hire a pro, and then you don't have to spend 20 hours teaching yourself a video editor.
Very good. If you hire a pro, they'll block the shot for you. If you're by yourself, you're going to have to put the tape and buy a roll of gaff tape, stick on the floor, and stand there every single time. No, it's great, and I appreciate all the creativity we've seen in your videos, but your whole panel's videos. And I know that Courtney, you've had a few videos as well. You said were shoestring budgets, and I think that. The kind of video you pulled out, I believe, Hold Me In with your hand Whitney, right? Now,
right? Yeah, I would love to I mean, we did not deserve that video for the budget that we had. I frankly would like to just ask people how much they thought that cost. Just go watch that video, because Matt, you did such a fantastic job as director of photography, cinematographer, and Kelsey just absolutely blew us away with her script. And then just she had these very specific shots. I was just so interesting to work with her because she has the eye of a photographer. So in her storyboard, it just she had these what looked like photographs. More than like a sequence of movements, and it was just so wonderful. I mean, and I think a testament to this was that I was talking to somebody who was writing a piece on me, and they had watched this video, and it made them very uncomfortable, and they were like, "It just made me feel claustrophobic," and I was like, "That was the theme, word for word. You nailed it," which, you know, I feel like was just such a testament. But with this video, and I feel like so much of music videos, I was just talking to somebody about a music video yesterday, and it was just interesting. They were telling me, you know, I shoot commercial so I can shoot music videos. That's what he said. And he was like, this is where, you know, this is what I live to do, and I pay my bills elsewhere. So I think a lot of people coming into music videos are willing to work with what is there. And it's just about bartering favors, you know, and it's a lot about prioritizing. And I think, Ethan, in your brief, one of the things that you mentioned was, you know, if I could go back and tell myself, or, you know, or like explain my, like a critical component of music video making, I think it's the prioritizing. You know, you have a day to shoot with a certain amount of people and a certain budget. You know, where do you want to spend? Like in Hold Me In, we spent on the digital Bolex, which was that specific camera that is actually spitting out the image as like JPEGs. What was it, Matt?
Raw DNG files.
Yeah. So it's not even a movie. What? Like you have to pull it in. The files are massive from what I was told. And it looks so much like Kelsey really wanted to shoot it on film, but we didn't have that budget. So where we spent was on this camera. And it really makes it, you know, it really has a vibe. And I think, maybe Matt, you can kind of, I don't know if you have like any good tidbits on prioritization. You probably know this better than I do.
Yeah. It's interesting because I guess my philosophy with music videos, some music videos, is like if I was really trying, I guess to go on the point where what your friend mentioned, I do commercials so I can do music videos. If I was like trying to actually like make money, I wouldn't be doing music videos often, right? And it's a harsh thing to say, which is not always true. You know, there are some music videos that do pay, but what I found more often than not, the music videos that I worked on with the highest budgets are the ones that you will never see me put out or put my name anywhere near, because so often they're not like labors of love, and they're not interesting. All of a sudden, when this video that I'm shooting somewhere with someone costs $70,000, that's very precious money that belongs to someone. When I want to do something weird and something interesting, something cool, they're like, no, we want it to look safe and good. And I'm like, okay, well, all of a sudden, whatever that I was feeling about this, whatever passion is kind of gone. So when something comes in and the budget is very, very small, but like everything that you need from it is there for you, you kind of just find a way to make it work. And then you look at things as like sort of wants and needs, and sometimes a want becomes a need. Like for us, like as Courtney mentioned, Kelsey was like, I really want to shoot this on film, but unfortunately the budget couldn't work. So what can we do to really make this happen? And we went scouring sort of every corner of New York City to find this one crazy camera that they no longer make. Like it's not available anymore. And and it was like not available that day. I had to like beg the rental house to like, please let us have it. They gave it to us, and we then proceeded to shoot on it. It was like the right tool for that job. So for us, it made all sense in the world. And then we proceeded to dunk it in water, which the camera's fine, but it was like one of those things of like, we just have to do this, and so let's just chase it. And so for us, it was like, this is kind of eating away a lot of our budget. but we sort of looked at everyone who's sort of making like department head decisions, and we're like, we're okay with that. Like, I'm okay with making a little less on this to get the thing that we need from it. And oftentimes, you know, a lot of directors' case, I'm sure Ben feels this a lot. Sometimes you forego your rate in order to make something happen, because it like means that much and it matters that much. Because, like I said, at the end of it, you have this thing and you accomplished it, and sometimes you just have to deal with the cards you're given. But the sort of the journey and the result is often greater than sort of like the whatever small amount of money you would have made on it. Be like, I made this much on a music video. Okay, you know, it's like we can get so much more from it.
Mm-hmm.
Can I, while we're on that video, I just want to point out one thing that I feel like would be really practical and helpful that I learned from Matt and Kelsey is, and this was a comment that my bandmate Jessica made about that shoot, but it was really interesting when we were doing that, where we did each shot, each look, you know, or each sort of scene multiple times from different angles. And I think that's a really great way to sort of stretch your budget and sort of your scenes and your options when you shoot something. It's like, okay, you got everyone sit in this one place and you got one look, and the only thing that really shifts is the camera. And then, you know, you do that like 3-4 times, and then you take one look, you know, even within one look. For example, on that video, there's that scene, there's the beach, and there's probably a couple versions of it where, you know, it's just like, you know, the face, you know, like the whole body, and then there's the one lying down. So we must have spent maybe like 2-3, maybe 2 hours on that beach, but there is just so many different angles of the same thing that you can sort of, it seemed like you could sort of keep cutting and, you know, really kind of never get tired of that same look. And that was something that I learned from that I think, I don't know if anyone out there would find this helpful, but just, you know, when you get all set up and when you have a look, if you're working with somebody, I think it's worth considering all the angles that you can get out of it before you move on to the next thing. Because as a musician and somebody who hadn't really come in from that directorial thing, that I think that's what I've been doing, where we'll get like one right take and we'll be like, okay, what's the next thing, you know, but spend a little bit of extra time there and I think you get a lot more.
Nice. We have a lot of questions coming in, which is great. You guys are doing an amazing job and making it real easy for me. But someone asked, can you speak to the specific budget for that video? Hold Me In.
I think we did that for like $2,000, which is it's frankly insulting. I feel like, Matt, I owe you like a trip to like a masseuse or something. And that was one day. We started at like 4 a.m. and we wrapped at, you know, 8. It was like a really long summer day in July. So it was like,
it was the hottest day of the year of that year.
So hot. It was so hot. And that was a labor of love, if I have ever seen a labor of love.
That's beautiful. And like Matt said, he charges less on labors of love than he would on commercial shoots. He doesn't have any interest. No, wait, that's not what he said. No, sorry.
I think the idea is good artists want to make good art. No one wants to put their name on art they don't like. So
yep.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point.
For sure.
And last point I'm going to make on the video, and you brought it up already, was when I was watching it, it definitely conveys the discomfort, you know, level, almost a David Lynchian kind of feel and vibe to it, which is great. However, I watched your live version in the studio of it, and it is an entirely different song, exact same sound, you know, for the most part, and it's entirely different vibe. You guys the energy is playing off the bandmates. You guys are having fun. It turns from a claustrophobic kind of a, you know, angsty film to it's a happy love song all of a sudden. Right. And I mean, the point to that is, you know, I think environment makes a huge difference, and clearly the aesthetics that you chose for the actual music video plays a big difference. But it also is how people can convey the mood of their music rather effectively with the visual medium. It does change how an audience may perceive it, you know, so I think that's important. And that's it. No. Let's see what other kind of questions we got here. Specific budget. Oh, look at that. Ethan's on it. If an artist is focused on great songs and visual arts, and we did that one. So was on it.
And one thing I will add to that, and I'll be real shady right now.
Go for it.
There are artists I don't like or whose songs I didn't care for, but the video was so interesting it was my gateway drug, and then I went on to hear other things I did like. And now that I've done the DIY thing, I definitely have looked at videos and thought, what is in the realm of possibility? Like, I saw something really cool the other day where I hadn't thought to myself that could be done as an individual with a single camera and a group of friends. Like, Lorde just did a video on a beach where most of it's a single camera shot. Right. And everybody's moving around. But if you think about it, whether you've seen it or not, if you have a big enough beach and friends and a single camera on a gimbal, as long as you have people moving behind you, it's the molding over the cut. You can't see what's happening except what's on the screen. And I saw an above shot of someone doing this DIY where they were in a room, had a single camera mounted in the center, and they had people every time the camera turned moving all the furniture out of frame. So every time the camera came around, every piece of furniture in the room was in a different spot. And it's subtle and it's cool and could be done with a single camera and a group of friends, And so the more you become interested in cool videos, regardless of whether you like the music, it's this beautiful rabbit hole, whether it gets you more into an artist or more into visual art. You're never going to be sad consuming more art. You're never going to be less inspired consuming more art, So that, again, with that idea of just, if you're not into it,
Honestly, like, what that made me think of is, I've been, for the past several years, making videos for other bands and artists to almost be forcefully put into situations that I wouldn't never necessarily have like sought out myself. And by that, I mean like a certain type of band or a certain type of music approached me to do visual stuff that I grew up playing punk music. I never like thought I would do like a dance music video or things like that. And those are often so groundbreaking for me because it just opens my horizons to like, okay, sure, let's try a dance video. Let's see how that looks, because I've never done that. And the fact that, by me just like making stuff for initially what was in my repertoire got to the point of allowing for something like that new to happen is paramount reason enough to just do it in the first place. We got a question about lyric videos, and I wanted to pull up an example that I made. I sent it to Ethan, but the question was, here's some thoughts on lyric videos, either simple or more complex, best practices, self-created, etc. So this kind of piggybacks off what I was just saying, but I made this video for a band called Marina City. The idea was to, have it be like a faux lyric video. Like, it's not lyrics the entire time. It's more like a segmented, sporadic lyrics, but we wanted to combat it with being more interesting than just text on a screen. So we had a dancer choreograph a whole sequence. It's one full take, but there was a lot of editing magic going into it. And it kind of doubled down the interestingness of the video. It was like also a lyric video. It accomplished that goal, but there was something else going on that you could like follow the entire time. I'm really proud of this video. I love how it turned out, and also super, super simple, like super simple. We filmed on a white cyc for like 2 hours. We did 3 takes, and the rest was in the computer. So you can do very cool things with not a ton of going into it. But yeah.
Can I ask the dirty question about like, if somebody came to you for something like that, what's the kind of budget they should have? Because I I definitely had an idea for something that was one step above my pay grade, and I knew I couldn't learn it fast enough, and that'll be the next thing I come to someone asking about. So, for the me of it all, what should somebody have ready for something like that?
Well, I think, for people that don't have any idea of like what it costs to make a video, right? Like, regardless of, there's so many factors that it's even impossible to like say, but just to start thinking about all the things that go into making a music video, right? Where it's happening, who's filming it, on what equipment, what additional equipment is required to make that, whether it's location or not. And, just basically everything that goes into it, right? And if you kind of start to compartmentalize those things, you can think like, okay, well, if I'm going to be the one editing, then that cost is covered. Or if, we're going to be hiring this person to do that thing, then that is an expense on top of this. We could do it at my house because my house is free. Like, all those things all add up to each other. So, I would like to consider myself a frugal producer. And I feel like most of us are here, in the sense of like, we're not going to cause unnecessary expense for no reason. It's always like, let's get the most for what is offered, right? We have X dollars. We're going to rent this studio because it's cheaper and gives us more than this sick studio who's big swanky, right? That was my mentality with that video. I think they came to us with like $1,500, and we actually made 3 of them. It's a 3-part series. So we filmed 3 different ones in one day. It was like 4-hour studio rental. The other expenses were studio and DP, and then it was just me from there. So really not a lot. You just got to kind of
super helpful.
Yeah.
Ben, that point about how you made 3, I feel like that's really important, because I think with music videos, and also with live videos, with my band Bentney, we've done like full concert videos for most of our albums, and it's done a lot for our band in terms of people noticing us and also just enjoying, like, because they're really exciting when we're live. Also not live as well. Our recordings are very awesome too, if I may toot my own horn. But like with live videos and stuff, the tough part is setting up and just getting everyone there on the same date. Like, scheduling is really hard, getting the gear, is really hard. So it's not a bad idea if you're on a shoestring budget to consider what you could do with that time. Is it, can you get something for more than one video? It's tricky. Like, you don't want to push it to a point where you're really going too hard and just ruining relationships because you went too hard. But with like that, I love that video, Ben. It's genius.
Thank you.
So beautiful, and it totally makes sense that it's perfect. It's like economical and amazing that you were able to make 3 at once.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead. I just talked like 2 hours.
No problem. I'd like to chime in on the sort of differences in lyric videos. I think lyric videos, oftentimes, people might, I think a lot of artists or some other people might look at as like a cheaper visual alternative to a music video, which is what it is, but it's also focusing on something different, right? Whereas a music video can sort of have a storyline that's inspired by the song or not inspired by the song, whereas the lyric video is quite literally like, this is what the artist is saying. And usually what you find is kind of like, it's either the 3 main kind of lyric videos are often like something sort of like what Ben did, which is like live action footage with lyrics on top, or you get like an all animated one, or in its like most basic form, like, Microsoft Movie Maker, just lyrics and over music, right? And there's a whole gamut of things. And I think people discredit the lyric videos often because I think people see them as like an opportunity, people don't see them as an opportunity to do something different. Like how Ben was sort of like, lyrics weren't up the whole time. It was kind of music with the performance and the visual aspect. I was the second unit DP on it's funny. It's a lyric video, but it cost as much as a music video for this band called Bring Me the Horizon for a song called Wonderful Life. And It's so fun. It's shot on 16 millimeter film. They shot it in London, and they had to fly me out to LA to do it. And it cost like a good amount of money. And it's a lyric video, and it's like a karaoke style lyric video. And the bottom, it like highlights the words and follows. Wow. And the entire concept is this like big heavy metal band doing very mundane things. One of them is mowing the lawn. The other one's going for a hike at the grocery store, or one of them is like waiting for a plumber to come by and fix like his sink or something.
Wow.
And it's so funny because it's like it costs as much as a music video. It's very visual. There's like storylines happening, but there's no performance. There's no nothing. And the only thing that makes it a lyric video is like the tiny string of text at the bottom, like karaoke style. And I remember working on that and feeling like, this is such a fun, yeah, it's insane. Like this is such a fun way to make a lyric video, and it's so different. And like, it didn't have to be shot on film, but they were like, let's just go there with it. And so this, I always felt was like a really fun. Yeah, if you skip ahead, you'll just see them doing the most boring things. I mean, even this is hilarious, but it's just like, it's just so fun. Like, here's the lead singer walking in with the plumber, and he's like, yeah, you got to fix your sink. And that's like really it. And it's hilarious. But you know what I mean? So it's something, it's like we can, I love this. We can just like push mediums forward in different ways to push our creativity, you know? And then in that way, whoever receives it, audience, fans, whatever, will be like, that was interesting. I like that.
Yeah, and that goes back to you're a consumer of art before you are an artist. If you're bored, other people are bored. If you don't like lyric videos, then you have an opportunity to do something different with them.
Yeah.
Heather, so you said consumer of art really early on, and I love that so much. And I was thinking, like, if there's one thing I could say tonight that's ultra helpful, I was thinking about that, like, I don't know what the demographic here is, if this is people who are wanting to make music videos or need convincing, but I think like one thing that you can start now is just collaging. Like I don't have a strong visual sense of like what I want in a music video. Like if someone has an idea, I can riff off of that, but I know myself well enough at this point to say that I don't have a mind like Heather or like Ben or like Matt, where I am not the best with starting with a script, but I believe that like that writing songs or playing shows or even coming up with ideas like that is a craft. It's not just a God-given thing. And something that was really neat about working with Matt and the whole crew and Kelsey was at one point we had a lunch break, and you know how sometimes you like meet like a cool artist and they're just saying things that inspire you? And that whole lunch table, I wish I had my iPhone out and recorded the conversation because people were spurting like, oh, have you seen this movie? Have you seen this movie? Have you seen that video? Have you seen that video? And if you are thinking about getting into music videos, building that reference point, having your own Pinterest of looks, or building your own like YouTube playlists of videos that you are inspired by, and being able to say, this is what I want, is so powerful. And in art and in collaborating with other people, you get into a lot of trouble when you think you're on the same page verbally, but you're not. And that's the whole reason we make art, is because we can't explain it verbally just by describing it. So, you know, just really taking that mantle on as a consumer of art, sort of taking Heather's term there, and actually starting to create your own sort of collection of references. I think that is one of the most powerful and practical things that you could actually start doing tonight if you do want to make music videos for yourself or to communicate with other directors.
Yeah. And it's no different, like, 'cause there are people here who have never made a video and say they're not into the medium. You've obviously made music, though, and you've gone into an engineer, and that engineer has said things like, how do you like your drums recorded? Give me an example of the drum sound you like. How do you like things mastered? Bring me a CD that's mastered the way you like. You know, it's the exact same thing, just for the visual.
Absolutely.
Good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, the production element can't be overstated enough, right? I mean, video production, much like music production, unless you're a master of all elements, you're probably going to have to collaborate with someone, you know, here and there. And I think it's amazing to me watching a person who really knows their craft, visual, audio, whatever it is, and what they what they can bring out, something I would completely miss. And Matt, this kind of falls in your arena quite a bit. It's the video production. Maybe I want to tell my story. Maybe I'm a singer-songwriter and I don't have a huge budget, but things I might want to, along with your collage idea, Courtney, things I want to consider. What are the elements that go into a video production that are kind of crucial and really would fit, whether it's a high budget or a low budget kind of scenario?
Mm-hmm. I would say it first starts with concept, right? Or intention. What are we trying to accomplish? An artist's intention could be, I want to look like Beyonce. I want to be as huge and I want to be a star. And then everything from there, every decision that the team makes, whether it's managers, director, cinematographer, the gaffer, colors, whatever, everything is now in servitude to that decision, right? We must make this artist look like this. Or in another case, an artist like Childish Gambino might make a music video called This American and be like, I want to say something, right? And now everyone's like, we are here to now service that. And so first and foremost, I think concept and idea, and even if you don't have the concept, allowing for someone, collaboration comes in to bring in concept, right? Collaboration is, I think, the most beautiful part of what it is that we do. Only because for me, like, to have someone else's incredible artistic eye be a part of a same sort of set path to try to accomplish something, I think is the most like enriching thing possible, right? Like I could do everything if I wanted to, but how much better is it when all these other people are on there giving their life experiences and their point of view and everything to make it even more just a rich experience, right? So that's the first thing I would say. And then you look into, okay, well, here's the idea. We have this idea. How much do we have to make it? And then you start looking at sort of hopes and then like realistic sort of expectations. And oftentimes, like, they sort of weave in and out of each other. Like, we're hoping for this, but we're kind of expecting this. And then you can kind of come up with creative solutions on how to go about sort of what the budget is and different things. And then comes the typical, like, okay, now we have to like do it. Where is it happening? Who's going to be there? What do we need? Maybe this artist is like, I need pyrotechnics. Where are we going to get them? And who's going to do it? So just stuff like that you kind of have to manage and make happen. And then there's the whole other side of, you shot the thing, now what? Right? Like, okay, we shot this amazing thing. Now we have to put it together in a way that works, right? This is more of an analogy for, I would say, filmmaking as far as like storytelling, but I think it applies for music videos too. Is like, you write the film 3 times, like when you write it, when you shoot it, and when you edit it. And so there will be like these incredible iterations that you will go through in order to reach this end product. And oftentimes what you sort of end up with may be very different than what you intended to make, but it may be better. Might be worse. I don't know, but hopefully it's better, right? So sort of like a very brief overview on like the process itself. And then after we're done with it, it's like, I call it create, curate, repeat. You make it, you put it out, you do it again. And that's just sort of this everlasting torment we go through.
Love it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you a hypothetical. I'm a singer-songwriter. I don't have a large backing band. I have myself and guitar, and I want to make a compelling video, and I may not want the narrative side of things. I'm going to put that big challenge on you. And you love this idea, but that's why you're going to charge me less than if it was a commercial shoot. But how would you approach that with the artist? How would you talk to them, try to extract the idea and make it visual? We're talking potentially shoestring budget, but singer-songwriter, single guitar, and go. No.
I would tell them, call Ben, and then once Ben figures that out, he'll call me.
Nice.
Because my role being the cinematographer, it would then, say if Ben and I work together, Ben would then talk. If an artist came to me, I'd be like, you should talk to this person, and then when you're done, he'll come to me, and then we'll go there, and then so I'll leave that to the director.
Nice. All right, Ben, you're up.
Yeah, I think Matt touched on it when he was laying out those wonderful steps. If someone didn't write that down, like, please. But I think that the first thing, that no matter what it is, no matter if it's Kesha or this singer-songwriter, like you said, what do you want to do? Like, what is, even if you don't know what you want to do, what are you inspired by? Show me a reference. Show me, tell me something you see in your head. Literally anything, just give me something to chew on that I can go from there. Because, I'm not in your brain, right? I can consume your music and your art from my perspective, which I love doing, and finding that interpretation is like half the beauty of this. But there is still so much to be said of the artist's perspective and what they wanted to say, right? That is like the most important thing. And if it's your song, ideally you have something you want to say there, right? Because you're saying it. So I think that, even if they have no idea and they're not savvy with references and inspiration and stuff like that, you pull it out of them. You say, okay, well, how does this song make you feel? What do you think of when you play this song? Like, where do you picture yourself? Tell me about where you wrote it. Tell me about the recording process, like literally anything. And I think that my experience as a musician really, really lends itself to this part of the process, because I can see their perspective and I know like where they are in their head. And I remember when I didn't know anything about visual stuff, and I was in that position of like, I see this thing, but I don't know what it means. I sympathize with that. So even if you are not interested in like making a ton of music videos for your music, I think exploring that visual interpretation in your head of your music is super, super valuable to even just learn about like what the song means to you. But yeah, I think my answer would be find the thread, find what they're looking for.
Beautiful. Anyone else? Courtney, Heather?
If you're starting on your own, I mean, there's sort of two types of videos here. If you're in it, there's you're lip syncing to a prior recording, or you're doing a live performance. If you're doing this on your own, I would actually highly recommend doing the lip syncing to the live performance, just because it means you've got guaranteed good audio. Maybe you're not an audio engineer, but you have the wave of your very pristine audio that then all you need to do is put on top of your video afterward, and that'll guarantee that it sounds professional, which goes a long way. If you're going to do a performance video, I think the idea is, how interesting a performer are you? And you got to be honest with yourself about that. If you are not hypermobile, if you tend to look down, I have dumb tricks when I live stream to ensure I look at the camera. I have my meter right next to the camera to make sure that if I feel like I might be blowing it out, my instinct is not to look here, it's to look here. You can trick yourself into being more engaging a performer than you are. I mean, when I'm lip syncing in Quarantiner, it's way overkill. I don't actually sing with my mouth like that all the time, but you have to translate. If you're not a super engaging visual performer, or you're uncomfortable with the notion of someone looking at you intently that long, then think about backgrounds, or potentially like really incongruous things. I think of like, Call Me Al, Paul Simon. My husband didn't know who Paul Simon was until Chevy Chase like wandered around like a crazy person in his video.
I love that.
And it's immediately memorable because Paul Simon's kind of Paul Simon. He's amazing. But if you're not into that, here's this comedy, So there's some real self-assessment that has to go into how engaging of a performer are you? Is that what you're trying to show? How comfortable do you feel with your audio if you're by yourself? Things like that. So there are things to consider.
Absolutely. Very good. Wow. What do we got here? Speaking of, yeah.
Because here you go. You think Paul Simon's going to open his mouth, and he steals it. And that's your bed. You know, maybe you got a friend who's funny. You know, I mean, so there's a way to do everything, even things like this, you know, with nascent little tiny ideas. Again, you can go to someone who can help you build them into something bigger.
That's really interesting. It makes me think, you said that where you're talking about performing to recorded audio or live audio. I did this video for this band called America Part 2, and they came to me with an idea that I'd never done before, where they wanted to make a live music video. And I was like, what does that even mean? And they were like, we want to record the audio live. It wants to be a live performance, but we want it to like have the artistry and the stylisticness of a music video. And we had this idea to like have the band look like they're like performing on a TV show, and they have this green screen behind them, and they're like flying through all this like galactic stuff of telling this story of life. And we had the added challenge of like bringing a engineer to the place, miking everything and recording everything. And we basically had to like decide on a full take of the, you know, we filmed the entire thing 4 times, and we were like, okay, which one's the best one? Because we can't cut between them. No click track, nothing. And that was like so invigorating for me. It was like a whole new level of challenge that like, I was just like, this is so cool, because it's harder. There's like things that are restricting what we're doing. Cool. And it was fun to me to like have that restriction. So just an example of like, it doesn't have to be like, I'm an actor and I'm singing along to my song. You know, it could be much more transparent and real than that. This is super, super real, but also like blown out of proportion in a really weird way. But yeah, the cool experience.
That's cool. I love that.
Very cool.
I also love this trend of like the breaking the backdrop boundary. I feel like that's like really cool. I love seeing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And what about live representative videos in the studio or on stage? And obviously, if it's a show, a performance, you may or may not have as much control over the cameras or the camera operators necessarily. But for a live studio kind of vibe, you know, what kind of suggestions or tips would you give to people who want to show their band playing?
I will say with my band, I benefit now. Obviously, during quarantine, I was stuck by myself. But with my band, I benefit from somebody who has better tech and better skills. And so, like, my bandmate, Rob Hinkle, you know, had nicer Canons and all kinds of things. And so we did set up and film an entire show, figuring that then from that show, you're going to get something, you know, multicam, whatever. And it turned out to be a lifesaver. It turned out to be a lifesaver because then when quarantine hit, we had a full 3-set recorded multi-camera show that we released in installments. So, you know, even something where you just take tons of footage might turn out to be useful content later. It's that idea of get everything you can out of each time you create. So that was our end of things.
I will say, on the topic of live videos, I was mentioning earlier that we've done a lot of live videos with the band, and it is incredibly beneficial to have just a small audience, even if it's a studio thing. It's a very different, the playing that the expression that you get, and you know, kind of like the urgency that you get, even if it's just 5 of your friends, is very important, because once the camera comes on, you become sort of self-conscious, and just having a couple people to play to, you sort of are help your way into sort of getting into see, like, I mean, this was interesting because we had less people, but we chose to film in the round, which was something that we hadn't done before. So this kind of peeling back the layer a little bit, I think we had, so this shot is an overdub. We did one full take with all the camera people in the middle, and with GoPros. And then we did a couple takes with kind of group shots with a little bit of cutting in, where we, found the take this is all live. So we found the audio take, we did an audio take that we like, and then we sort of jammed along, like lip syncing fake. So there's not a lot of drum shots from that angle because it's really hard to sync the drums. But anytime this video cuts to a shot where you see the center of the room, that's sort of a little clever little overdub. I think we might hit a shot around here, maybe not. But the other thing that I wanted to mention to the question earlier about what do you do if it's your first time and you want to do a narrative music video, I would say start with who you know. So I think it's easy to sort of think about like my ideal music video and to start it in a vacuum, right? And to have this crazy script. It's easier if you start from who do I know and what do I have? Like, Heather's case, like, okay, I have this friend who has all these cannons. Or, like, I think, Ben, you mentioned this earlier too, sort of, picking who are your people and being like, okay, well, I have a friend who is very looks very evocative and is great with the camera. Okay, so I want him to be in this. What do I do? Okay, my friend has a warehouse that has this amazing blue wall. Heather, okay, my apartment's got a blue wall. This is really solid, right? So like instead of I think that's a really resourceful way to start if you're sort of trying to make your first music video, is like kind of count your assets before you sort of start making your wish list. And also I would just say make it, again, like I think we're used to seeing pristine music videos and we're used to seeing pristine videos, period. So I think it's easy for ourselves to be very hard on ourselves when you first start creating, that it's so important to make that first thing because you're only going to get better. And so if you have an idea, just do it, because I feel like everyone in the room here and most people who have worked on music videos can agree that making a music video is fun. So at the very least, if you don't have a budget, if you don't know what you're doing, go for fun, and then you'll get something evocative, even if it doesn't look great, And I think, again, just sort of stretching yourself to make that art. Christian, I think you were making this point earlier too, is so important. And I don't think you will regret just making it, and you'll remember the moments, like Matt said, you're like, oh, when I did that thing, something fell over and that's why I actually laughed. But it's like those things, and it's just such a joy to create.
And you learn for the next time, right?
Absolutely.
The whole the learning process of it all.
Yeah, that's how you make the good videos, is you have to make the first couple bad ones.
Yeah. I'd also love to encourage people to also like allow the thing itself to be more than what you thought it could be. And I say it's a very weird way of saying it, but I say that like a lot of people, when they hear music videos, the initial thing is like, okay, performance or narrative? And it's like, well, what else could it be? And there's this one music video that I absolutely love. It's for the song Hide by a band called Rainbow Kitten Surprise. And it's directed by this guy named Kyle Thrash, really great director. It's a documentary music video. The song itself is like 3 minutes maybe, and the video itself is like 5. And it follows 3 different stories of different drag queens and like their life off stage and on stage. And there's like a whole entrance, and then it follows them for a lot of the video. And like the video is like a documentary, and then halfway through it stops and it goes to a moment where one of them is going to like come out to their father, and then the band comes in for like the last 30 seconds, and it's like it's sort of like the band being like, it's not about us, it's about these real life people and their real life stories. And I remember looking at that and saying like, a documentary music video hybrid is so interesting and so new and so bold that it makes me wonder, like, what else could the music video be, right? And so that's something that I always encourage people, like, if you have, like, wacky ideas or no ideas, like, go in the opposite direction. See what you find on the way there,
Yeah. I love that.
Very good point. I love it. I wanted to say one thing, kind of going just a little bit back to Courtney's video inside the studio. And for anyone who wants to do their own video or work with friends to collaborate, then just practice, or try to make something, make something for yourself that you want to submit to the NERPA, just saying, the Video Spotlight series coming up. Use your camera, use it more than one direction. A lot of people get stuck setting the camera up and doing the shot and it's done. Okay, I lip synced all the way through and there's a song. Okay, well, how many takes did Courtney's band have to go through? 2 or 3 or 4 or 5? Who knows? She knows. And having more than one take at a slightly different angle will give you more to work with. It's no different than a still photographer taking their shot. I got it, and then turning around the opposite direction. Then what else am I getting? Right? Work the scene. I will say that we saw a number of videos that were a single placement on the camera, didn't move. The performer did their thing. It's a beautiful song, but the video wasn't necessarily compelling. And then again, we saw people inside a studio where they're really visual. It looks like a studio, but it wasn't so much. It wasn't as much activity going on as Bentley was having there, but they had more than one camera operating. And there's one that's kind of a low angle. They got one slightly moving, and they were able to splice in between those and really add some additional life, if you will, to something that would otherwise be very static. So even a simple technique like that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, because you know more better than I, but I think simple techniques like that can lend itself a long way to helping you visualize your music.
Yeah, a simple understanding of just visual language can take a project into, like you can have all this stuff, but if you can have the greatest camera, most expensive, but you put it in the wrong place, it's not going to say much, right? So having an understanding of the visual language just elevates everything to another level.
Yep. Here's a good example that Ethan's putting up with the American Patchwork Quartet. A beautiful take on a classic song. You guys should definitely take a look if you haven't seen this already. But yeah, it's a fairly simple movement. I mean, they're not going crazy with the camera work. Just a little bit of motion, though, helps that narrative. So I think that's a very good example. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are coming up here to an hour and a half, and I hate to end it, so we're not gonna, but we're almost gonna. So listen, we've convinced 100 people to go out and make their video. It's been edited. We brought in our friends who can audio engineer and video splicing this together, and our post-production, our colors, and whatever else we have, or we're doing it all in iMovie. Doesn't really matter. It's in the can. Your mom doesn't understand it. Your dad frowns, but your friends love it. Now what? You got this video. Now what are you going to do with it? Where do you promote and share your work? Maybe some tips and suggestions if we're getting out there for the first time. How does it work for you guys?
I'll go.
Sorry, Ethan's putting up something that I threw in because I was. So Maddie Diaz, who I met years ago on the road, is putting out a new album. They've been doing like constant videos for it. What struck me about this one is it's her and a guitar. There's not a lot going on in the song. In the video, she's playing a full kit that you can't hear, which is visually just really, bizarre. You're hearing a song that is no kit, and she's playing full percussion, basically while the boyfriend packs up to leave behind her. So the idea that she's just as loud as she can be, but all you hear is this very gentle singer-songwriter song.
I love that.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
and I don't.
Incredible.
So this was actually when people were talking earlier about, like, let's say you have a really simple song. It's you and a guitar. and I think, Matt, you're talking about go totally the other direction. Cool. It's her and a guitar. Great. There's no guitar. I'm going to play full kit percussion. And they slowly just back out of this room. So, Ethan, if you can scroll to the end of the video, they slowly back out into, it's just a window outside, and she is playing drums while he's packing up his entire stuff from the apartment. So simple. 2 people, 1 camera.
So cool.
That's amazing.
This is one of those videos you wish you came up with, right?
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Like, damn it. And there's just banging, and there's no percussion in the song. It's so jarring.
So cool.
So I bring that up
Thank you for
directly
showing
to
that.
Matt's point of go the entire opposite direction. Your song's quiet, make a video that looks loud. You know, something nuts like that, you know?
I love that. Very
sorry.
inspiring.
Go back to... Where were we at?
I was...
You made it. What do you do now?
You made it. Now what?
I will say from my perspective, we were doing, I mean, we still are, but with the band, we were doing these bigger release timelines where we're holding the music for, 3-4 months to print vinyl. And, as soon as the masters go in, you're picking the music videos. And if you're working on a bigger production or, like a bigger release where you have a big timeline and you have a team, a publicist and, digital marketing people, I think it's the expectation is that you have to have the video at least 3 weeks out. That's a pretty short time to try to force a video into publication. And I think, the whole art versus audience thing, I think that's like the eternal dilemma of what we do. And I also think the eternal dilemma of creating art is, did I make this for myself or did I make this to be the next viral video? And I think it's important for you to draw a line somewhere where, maybe you are killing yourself trying to find the right outlet to release this video. Maybe you are depressed because you've worked so hard on this video and it has not come out. I think we've all struggled from this where we finished an album, we finished a project, and we're diligently working on that timeline, waiting for it to get placed, and just feels weird. You feel sad, you don't understand it. And then the video comes out and you're like, people, you get this reaction. And it's easy to assume that you create in this vacuum, like I used to think like, oh, I would keep making music by myself. It's my, like even if no one told me anything or no one ever heard it, maybe there are people like that out there, but the reaction and the energy you get in reaction to your art is also an important part of it. So managing that expectation, like we all want the video to do as well as it can. So we're going to go through the people we know and the means we have and spend the money we can. But at a certain point, it's also, I think, important to just appreciate for what it is and to celebrate it when it comes out without it becoming this like stalwart in, your life. That's my 10 cents.
I love that. I completely agree. It gives me a lot of thoughts. The towing a line of the musician and video parallax of, like you said, like things take time, things get stalled, things take forever. And it adds all these layers of like frustration and confusion onto it. But there is so much value in time spent doing it over again and like compounding interest in a way, right? Like in both the sense of like fulfillment and artistic growth, but also in the like sense of, like you said, when your band started putting up live videos on YouTube, your growth grew exponentially. And that's because you didn't have one live video, you did 3, and then you did 5. And each of those videos were seeping into corners of the internet all on their own. And the more that you do that, the more that happens, right? There's so much value in that side of things, as well as you're growing yourself as an artist every time. So like, to me, whenever I get to the end of a project, it's like, allow yourself to feel that satisfaction, regardless if it gets 100 views or if it gets 100,000 views, whatever. That Suedo lyric video that I did hasn't even broke 1,000, but I am so proud of that thing. It's so cool. So that feeling of like, I did this thing, I tried this new idea, I explored this part of my brain that I hadn't explored yet, is really, that's what I've found is the best thing to chase after. You're going to get the most reward from it when it's done, and it's not dependent on external factors of vinyl takes 10 months to press and won't come out until 2020. So yeah, artistic like satisfaction, I think, is the thing to chase after.
Love it. I've skipped over this question a couple times because I think the real answer is it depends, and I don't want that to come across as a snarky answer. But some people are asking, what is a realistic budget expectation to making a video? And I think we touched on it a little bit. You rent a digital Bolex and you have a group of friends that can make films. You might only spend $2,000. You have an iPhone and 20 hours of editing capability. You might spend your time, $30, you know, and everything in between. And I think this also harkens back to your community, right? My guess is, and NERF is a pretty big community, you probably know somebody that either has a camera that can come over and help video something, maybe has an extra light, has a better soundboard than you do, or if you need to get a new soundboard, you should check out B&H. Just kidding. Don't do that. No, but I mean, realistically, there's always someone that knows somebody that knows somebody, right? And this is a community.
Of every stripe, because I know within the folk community, Lisa Bastoni has done some visual artwork that has been lent to video, and so has Elena Lacayo. So like within our community, there's already people who are, if you're not artistic or visually artistic, can provide you the visual art, you know, some easy stop motion stuff, things like that, where you might only be hiring one person, two people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a lot of people look at budget as like something that's, you know, like you can just Google like, well, how much should a music video cost? And then it's like the answer comes up. You're like, oh, that's it, like easy. And it really is down to like, this idea of like investing in yourself and your art and like what you want to accomplish, and also like how much can you do, right? I do not recommend like financially ruining yourself to make a music video. That's not like, let's not do that, right? But maybe if all you can afford is $500 for a video, just have this understanding that $500 is a number, and there are people like she was mentioning, like different stripes who can work with that. Others can't. Maybe you save up $5,000, and that will give you something else. But it's really like what you can pull out of yourself that you are comfortable with, makes sense to you, and also how much you're willing to invest. Because maybe in the very beginning you're like, I can't do $1,000, but my goal is 1 year from now I want to do a $2,000 video. Start at 300. Start at 500. Do it by yourself, you know, whatever it takes. It's like, I remember someone told me this, and it applies to everything, but I'm trying to work it in here. They said, if you plan on doing this for the rest of your life, if not a really, really long time, then take your time, right? Everything is a stepping process. And, you know, I remember very clearly one of Kelsey and I's first videos, which, funny enough, I was the director, she was the cinematographer. We were confused, and that was a budget of like $300. And she knows what video it is, and it's a cool video. It's cool. It was $300, and we were like, okay, we're just gonna split this halfways. But then it was really like, oh, well, gas and food, and okay, maybe it's not this much. And so we were kind of, that's all we had. And then as time went on and we sort of developed, we jumped into our first like $20,000 budget, and we were like, what do we do with this money, you know? And it's like things just take time, but we just looked at it as like, all they have is 300. We're gonna make this work, you know. And so cost is all dependent on worth, and worth is so subjective. What's worth it to me? How much does that cost? Doesn't matter. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, and you can say no if somebody quotes you too much money. Like there are people who, you know, I've been on the asking end, and okay, multi-camera live video shoot, I've been quoted between $2,000 and $5,000. That's doable for some and not doable for others. I had friends who shot a $20,000 full-scale narrative MTV ready video that did very well for them, and they crowdfunded for it. So that's cool. You know, if you want a spectrum.
Yeah, I always try, like I feel I work in a very middle ground of like client scale, where I'm still working with like DIY bands, but then every now and then I'll get, you know, a bigger label budget type video. And so I see both sides of it, and, you know, the age old question of like, you know, how much is this going to cost? Or like, how much do you charge for a music video or whatever? And I always lead with, well, what do you want to spend? You tell me. I know money is a thing for literally everyone, right? Money sucks. We all deal with it. But like, you are the person spending the money, so you know what you want to spend. whether we are going to acknowledge it or not. So I like to just acknowledge it right away. You tell me, and we will fit the idea and what we do into that. And I'll be realistic about what things cost. And when you have an idea, and if it's more than what is possible within that. But I think that the best way to go about it is to not get intimidated by, oh, I want to make a music video and it could cost so much money. It's, I have this to work with, and we're going to make something work within that. Because you can, as we've proven so much over this conversation, you can literally do anything for any amount of money. Nothing is impossible. So I think leading with that in mind of like, this is my parameters, is very, very like productive and healthy and important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one final thing, I'd love to just recommend different directors, even musicians, folks out there. There's this website /collective /initiative called We Direct Music Videos. And they have a site called WeDirectMusicVideos.com. And their whole thing is about sort of this, the transparency of what goes into the music video making process, the pitching process. And on this site, directors, like very big sign directors, big production companies, will upload like their treatments or their pitches on there and do budget breakdowns. And they're pushing this initiative of like, let's figure out like client expectations with budgets. Let's start talking about like, you know, because oftentimes directors might pitch on a music video, and it might be a blind pitch where you don't know if you're up against one person or 7 other people. And that should all determine like, well, what am I going to put into this? So We Direct Music Videos is a great resource for different artists to look into, just to further, educate yourselves on this whole world. They go into like ad revenue stuff and what we should be making. And they even do budget breakdowns of like, this is how much the video cost. This is how much it should have cost. And even that's a huge eye-opening thing. So
cool.
Highly recommend. Yeah, check it out.
Very good. Wow. My head's spinning, and I love it. I love your brains. I love your creativity. I'm going to ask you guys one last question, because we do have to wrap things up a little bit. And this one's easy, maybe. Learning from ourselves. What's something you've learned about creating music videos that you wish that you could tell your past self when approaching the first music video creation experience? Time travel. What are you going to tell yourself?
Mine's very technical. Your computer is slower than you think.
Awesome.
I got stuck with not a very powerful computer, and I had to knock, since I was running, you remember Photoshop filter layers of video, so every one of those me's is a full take of the song piled on top of each other and moved into place. That's a massive file. I had to knock it down twice to make it tenable to work with my little struggling, coughing computer. So in retrospect, a much better piece of hardware would have made my life a lot faster. You know, I had to make some decisions that were to clean up mistakes because like a frame got, clipped somehow and I had to hide it. So yeah, having a powerful computer, if you're going to do any of this kind of thing yourself, definitely in retrospect, I would love to go back and just have a slightly more powerful machine.
Good point. Matt?
If I were to go back and tell myself something at the early point of my career, I'd probably say something along the lines of like, be more bold, like, trust your guts. Stuff that's like, I found myself so many times being on set, being very worried about like, oh, like, is the exposure right? And these are very important things. Or like, oh, like, is this the whatever? Am I doing this right? Or am I doing what? And I think I would tell myself like, be more bold. Like, just let yourself be everything and just do it all. And I think that's a really big thing because I feel like artistic voice is something that like we are in constant search of. Like we're always, it's like always that thing that we're chasing that's kind of too far ahead until we finally get and we reach it. And I feel like half the time as we're chasing that voice, or our voice, it's often like we're in our own way of achieving that. Whether it's like self-doubt or like this idea that like things and tools are limiting you, which they can, but limiting you like mentally and creatively. And I think, just don't get in your own way, I think I would say.
Good point. Courtney?
I am slightly repeating myself from the whole conversation, but I can think of two things. One of the things is just my life in general. I have realized I have not been having enough fun. I'm a very serious person. So I think that's one thing I would have loved to tell myself, is to just like take it easy, have fun. The other thing, again, like, which I think was my one mission to try to drive home, is I wish that I had start building my eye for art direction earlier. And I just really believe that so many of these art disciplines, like art direction, isn't something that's even defined, you know? Like, you look for people who have that eye, you know? Like, I look for people like Ben and Heather because you two have this eye for some reason, but it wasn't just something you know, it's not a God-given thing. Like, you weren't just born with it. Like, this is something that you unconsciously built through just ingesting all of this art and building your own like panels of references. And I didn't have a television growing up, so I think I just never sort of developed that eye with music videos or sort of like visual things as much. And so if I could go back 10, 15 years, I would like to tell myself, start building your own palette of references and visual inspiration, because that will just give you a leg up in being able to communicate what you want in so many situations with music and with music videos.
Very good. And Benjamin, bring up.
Yeah, similar thought of I wish that like, everything happens for a reason, right? But I wish that I started exploring this part of my brain sooner. I played in a band out of high school for like 6 years, pretty full time, before I ever even started doing anything with visual elements. And what introduced me to the visual elements was just bringing a film camera on tour. And I wish that I did that when I started touring. I wish that, you know, I gave as much of a crap about this stuff and started learning about it, because who knows what I could have created for the music that I was making at that time, you know? And I think about that often, of like, I was 17 and so passionate about this music, but if I had just explored this other part of my brain, that could have been something even crazier. And also, like, this is totally different, but something I've learned as I do this more is letting the idea speak for itself and not feeling like I need to like shove it down a throat of like, this is what this is about, or something like that. When I craft a concept or am trying to tell a story in a video or something, I've often found when I get to the end of the edit and I am looking at it from that like different perspective of, oh, it didn't really have to like go that hard. Like, it didn't have to tell all these things so expressively, because it can speak for itself. It can be interpretive. I look back at early projects and I think like less could have been more there. So that's something that I kind of am working with as I finesse these newer things that I'm doing. But yeah, wish I got into it more and let the idea speak for itself.
Awesome. Well, I can't thank you guys enough for your creativity and your time, sharing your experiences and your artistry with us. I would love to be able to continue this conversation further. In fact, Ethan and I have been talking about doing a series of a little more technical, so people who want to know more about the actual camera movements and lighting and audio and yes, bringing people together. Right. And so that's a series of talks that we would like to do in the near future. For anyone who has additional questions after this, or may be watching this beyond the live, definitely send us an email. You can reach me directly and Ethan at bh@nerfa.org. And that's a great way, whether it's technical, you need something to know about gear, or you want to reach our panelists here, that's a good way to do it. And I would say for anyone contemplating or have already made a music video, definitely consider submitting to the NERFA 365 video submissions you can find on nerfa.org. We want to see your creativity, and there's as much a variety of visual artistry and creativity out there as there are musical personas. So embrace it. Let's see what you got. It's going to be fun. And I think, unless anyone else has any parting thoughts, I think we're going to cap it. So thank you so very much. Kelsey, I hope you're still up. Thank you for bringing everyone together. And NERFA 365, we love you. Everyone have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Like you can. The camera's on you, ain't that enough? You're looking for the all-round good love, so nothing's gonna get in your way. You're gonna get yourself broke one day. We see the girls from the video. We see the girls from the video. Stop running to me. She the girls from the video. She the girls from the video. You lie, you lie, you lie. Are you waiting on me? It's radiating up, big blood rushing over from. You will not expect my life. How big is your brain? I'll show you where mine is. I need to know how open your mind